How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO video. Today is a bit of a quick video on the Werewolf. A little bit in depth as far as choices are concerned when it comes to class, because most people can't figure out what is best in ESO. Now, we all know fully, or at least most people do, that the Elder Scrolls Online has billions of possibilities when it comes to customizing your own build. There's no best set in stone. It's any class, any race, any role. Do what the hell you like. But when it comes to the Werewolf, you're no longer using your class abilities. So which ones actually benefit you the most? And we can loosely say here which class would be best for Werewolf to benefit you in Werewolf form. So we're going to go over some of the passives that really only apply when you're a Werewolf and only count if you're not using class skills. So again, some are for class skills, some are just set in stone. We'll give you an example with the Sorcerer. Sorcerer is what I would argue is probably one of the better ones because reduces the health, magicka, and stamina cost of non-core combat abilities. So your abilities are cheaper. This one here, after blocking an attack, your next ability is cheaper. And then you've got stuff like this. Restores, not that one, extra reduction to cost for ultimate. So changing into a werewolf is cheaper than everybody else's. Then you've got increases your max health by 10% if you have a pet active, and increases your max stamina and magicka if you have no pets active. So the Berserker werewolf, you have increased flat stats. The pack leader, you have more health because you've now got pets. So that passive actually helps you regardless. Then, increased mag recovery, flat. That stays with you all the time. Increased physical and shock damage, if you're doing any shock or physical with your sets, but above all, using lights or heavies from the werewolf and your howl abilities, that's all physical, so that benefits too. Then you've got increased damage the higher the health, so you've got more burst, and then that's pretty much it for the Sorcerer, but you get the idea. Anything like this, however, which increases your weapon and spell damage for having Sorcerer abilities, don't have any, doesn't work. You've got the increases health recovery and stamina recovery for having a Daedric summoning ability slotted. Doesn't work. Then you've got stuff like this, where you actually have to use dark magic abilities to get a heal. Doesn't work. So we're looking at passives that make sense when you're a werewolf, not the ones that don't. Now we're going to go over some of the stuff for other classes, and then we can show you at the end which one I deem better, basically. So if you look at the website here, zynogaming.com, so basically all you need to do is click on the builds tab. Yes, of course, if you're on mobile, you can actually access it a bit easier, and it's going to be in the description anyway. But if you click here, instead of clicking on the tabs that drop below, you'll see all the different individual classes. Now, obviously, your werewolf needs to make sense. We need to make sure that you can utilize it in a non-werewolf state at the same time as in werewolf state. So what's best for you may vary dramatically, but we're going to go over just the werewolf skills, passives, bonuses, not including sets and stuff if we can help it, and tell you which class is more useful in that stage. So if we look at the DK, for example, excuse the adverts on there, you can click them if you want. They'll be different by the time you get there. But combustion only affects poison and burn status effects. You are not doing any unless your sets are doing them, so it's not DK specific. So that doesn't actually count when it comes to werewolf. Your skills are physical, bleed, and disease. Warmth, ardent flame skills only. Sear and heat, ardent flame skills only. World and ruin, again, poison and fire. If your sets or procs or glyphs fire from that, sure, but that's not werewolf specific, so this skill line is feckin' useless. This one here, Iron Skin, does actually help. That will increase the amount of damage you can block by 10%, so fair enough. That does transfer to the transformation. Burning Heart, ardent flame only. Not ardent flame, draconic power even. Elder Dragon, again, same applies. It has to be slotted abilities from the skill line. You can't slot them. And Scaled Armor, that is a resistance bonus that you do have no matter what. So far at the DK, block reduction and increase to armor. 1650. Bear in mind, you're going to have to remember that number. Then you've got Earth and Heart. Eternal Mountain increases the duration of Earth and Heart abilities. No good. Battle Roar does benefit you when you transform because it gives you loads of resources back, but that's only that one-time pop, so that's not that great. Mountain's Blessing, of course, gives you minor brutality if you use an Earth and Heart ability. You can't use them in the Werewolf. And Helping Hands will give you stamina back if you use a magicka ability in the Earth and Heart skill line that isn't cheaper than the return that you're getting from this. So none of these really help you. That would just give you resource back as an oh shit button if you transform. So during Werewolf, that's no good. So technically, from the DK, Iron Skin and Scaled Armor is the only two that work. Now, when it comes to other classes, we are going to go through these in detail. I'll give timestamps in here as well so you can skip to them. Templar is actually pretty useful. Piercing Spear is for Adric Spear only. It increases your critical damage and increases your damage done by blocking targets, but that only counts during the Adric Spear particular ability. They have to be slotted. Spear Wall does give you minor protection for using an Adric Spear ability. So that isn't showing that in that stat, but that is how it works. Now, Burning Light was changed over time. This used to be only with Adric Spear damage and then Templar damage, and now it's any damage. So when you deal damage, you generate Burning Light, and after 3 seconds, if you get 4 stacks of damage, which is easy to do, you do 3 magic damage. Scaled off your offensive stats, that one does actually help. That's free damage all day long. And then you've got Balanced Warrior, which increases your weapon and spell damage by 6% and increases your physical and spell resistance by 1320. Technically, that's 300 less than a DK, but it's 660 for 1%. So you have 0.5% or 0.5% reduction versus the DK there. Granted, we don't have the block bonus, but we do have the extra weapon and spell damage. So nice resistances, more weapon and spell damage, and the Burning Light bonus. So we do damage for free. That's looking pretty good right now, just for the sake of that. Now, Enduring Rays doesn't affect Werewolf. Prism doesn't affect Werewolf. This doesn't affect it. And this doesn't affect it either. Oh, this one does actually. This one reduces the cost of your health, magicka, stamina, and ultimate abilities. 10% less than the 15% that the sorcerer gets. So the sorcerer has 15% reduction. This has 5. Now this is 10% less than the sorcerer. Now I know the maths experts are going to go, that's not 10% actually. No, I know it's 66.6, but still. They start on 15% reduction. We have 5% reduction. We're talking raw bonus, not the amount from them compared to each other overall. So this is helpful, but less than the sorcerer. Mending is not applicable because we don't have Restore and Light abilities as a werewolf. We don't have that ability. We don't have this. We don't have that. We can't use this. This one actually would be really nice if it actually landed, but it won't. So when you are using Restore and Light ability, you get ultimate back, or other people do. Has to be from that skill line. This, however, does work. You can resurrect faster. That bonus does apply as a werewolf. So at the moment on the Templar, we've got reduction to cost, which is less than a sorcerer, but quite nice. Resistances, that is less than a DK, but quite nice. Free damage and extra weapon and spell damage. So at the moment, the sorcerer and the Templar are looking pretty bloody good when it comes to survival, reduction to cost, and damage output. So the Templar and the Sorcerer are above the DK at this point in time. Nightblade, we've got Master Assassin, which of course increases your physical and spell pen when you're against targets from their flank. So if you're hitting stuff from the side or behind them, you will actually have higher pen. Bearing in mind, that depends on your buffs and debuffs in your group. That might actually be a negative. You might have too much pen and you might not be benefiting from it at all. Whereas in other situations, you may have more than others. So that one's flip of a coin depending on the situation. When an enemy dies within 2 seconds of being damaged by you, restore magicka and stamina. That one used to be based on Nightblade abilities, so we need to double check that that is exactly what it says it is. But when an enemy dies after being damaged by you, restore. So that doesn't actually apply to any particular abilities now. That is just everything, so that's a win. Pressure points increases your weapon and spell crit rating by 438 for having assassin ability slotted. We can't. So Hemorrhage actually applies crit damage. You've got an extra crit damage bonus as a Nightblade. And at the same time, if you deal critical damage, you will apply minor savagery, which gives the group another 5% increase. Now, bear in mind that, I think it's 6% actually. Bear in mind, this really is a tricky one because while it's really good, and the only way to get minor savagery for you and your group, you do have to crit. And if you're a werewolf, it depends on how you build. If you build for really, really low crit and high tankiness, this might not fire very often. If you have high crit, it's going to be there all the time. So that's a flip of the coin also. Refreshing Shadows. This one increases your health, stamina, and maga recovery by 15%. That's the highest one out of all the classes so far. That's really useful. When casting a shadow ability, delete it, can't use it. Increases your health for each shadow ability slotted, can't use it. And increases duration of non-invisibility shadow abilities, delete it, can't use that either. So we've got recovery, crit damage if you're lucky, depending on your build, resource management, and pen. So across the board, quite healthy. After drinking a potion, you get 20 ultimate. Useless in werewolf form, you can't generate ultimate. It increases your max magic for siphon abilities, no good. Increases your healing done for siphon abilities, no good. And casting siphon ability, no good again. Useless. So the only one that's really good for us here, well, actually none in that skill line at all. But here we do have one, which is, where's it gone? In fact, no, I'm wrong again. This skill line is useless, the whole thing. So, oh, no, we were right. Refreshing Shadows, there we go. The only one that's useful is Refreshing Shadows. Hemorrhage and Master Assassins. So one skill line has one skill line has nothing, and the other one has 2. So fairly good, but risk versus reward depending on how you build. Warden, of course, is a very tricky one. This run requires animal companions, no good. Animal companions, no good. Animal companions, no good. And animal companions, no good. Whole skill line for damage, useless for werewolf. Accelerated growth requires you to heal people under 40% health with green balance, no good. This one, green balance, no good. Green balance again, no good. This one, however, minor toughness does actually apply regardless. So any heal that you do for you or somebody else will give you 10% health increase. That's helpful. So far on the Warden, we've got 10% increased health. Now, increases your chance of applying chilled with Winter's Embrace abilities, no good. And increases the damage of your chilled status effects by 223. This scales off your highest offensive stats. So technically, if we apply chilled in any way, shape, or form, that's higher. But again, that is build specific, not werewolf specific, so it's friggin' useless. Increases your armor based on Winter's Embrace ability slotted, no good. Reduce the effectiveness of snares on you for 15%. We're fast anyway, but sure, why not? And when you deal frost damage, technically as a werewolf, we don't. Depends on your build, obviously. Need to drink some water, run out of breath. I know I could have edited that out, but I'm not going to. Now, build specific stuff, if you do have ice, great, you can take advantage of it as a warden, but that's a warden specific thing, it's not a werewolf specific thing. So the only thing we can really benefit from as a warden is extra health, which is nice, and reduction to snares. No damage increase, no nothing. Necromancer. Reusable parts, useless, it's about pets. Increases your critical strike chance while having these abilities slotted, useless. While a Gravelord ability is slotted, useless. Rapid Rot increases your damage with damage over time effects. That is good. We do apply bleeds. We do apply disease. They are damage over time. That one is quite a big one because it affects 2 of our skills. Whenever an enemy in combat dies within 28 meters of you, you get resources back. They used to be based on a pet being present, but now it's just a bonus regardless, so nice resource management there. Reduces the damage you take with damage over time abilities with a Tyrant ability active. RIP. Can't use that. Increases your healing, Tyrant ability active, RIP, and increases your maximum health. So, max health, resources back, and dot increase. So the Necro is quite good. Very small bonuses, but balanced nonetheless to have a bit of everything. When you have a negative effect on you, your healing done is increased by 8%. I'm pretty sure that was based on having the skill present. Apparently not. Doesn't rely on it. That's fine. Yes, I use ESO Hub all the time. As you can see, these links here are from ESO Hub directly. We have a little bit of an agreement there with Wooler to allow them on there, so we can definitely promote each other there. Solid website, check it out, ESO Hub. While you have a live and death ability slotted, RIP. When you consume a corpse, can't. That might actually... This is one for players to test out. It says when you consume a corpse. Technically speaking, we don't consume any corpses. It's not repentance, it's not necrotic potency, but we do eat bodies. Shouldn't work, but it might. Go try out on a werewolf, see if it does. And while you have sacrificial bones, RIP again. So basically, excluding this whole skill line here, you get more health, you have recovery if you get kills, and you have higher dots. So pretty good across the board. Not absolutely terrible, but not game-changing. Arcanist, you're going to love this one. Fated Fortunes, you need a crux? No. Master, blah, 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 blah. When you restore magical or stamina. Now, this one does actually help. If you get your bar to full, magical or stamina, you will actually get increased weapon and spell damage. So if you use Berserk and you heal while you are full health, you get resources back. If you do hit maximum, you'll get this for 10 seconds. Really subjective and situational, but it's a buff nonetheless. Your attacks have increased status damage and chance. That's pretty feckin' huge. That does affect everything, including the fact that you have bleeds and disease, and depending on your morphs, you can guarantee hemorrhage and disease damage. So that does inflate those quite a lot. Also, when you increase your physical and spell resistance per tome ability, useless. So this one here, status is good, and extra damage is rare, but also good. This one here, while the beneficial soldier of Apocrypha ability is active, no good. This one also has one slotted, no good. Cast an Arcanist ability, no good. When you consume a crux, no good. Whole skill line, useless. This one requires a crux. When you generate crux, increases your magic and stamina recovery. Okay, so that one's a pretty good one. Big recovery bonus there. And then we've got your status, reduces the cost, and increases the strength of your damage shield. So again, you've got to have one slotted for that. It doesn't say that there. It should do. I don't think this has been updated. Reduces the cost. I think that one is supposed to be when you have an ability slotted, but it doesn't actually say it. Maybe they changed it. Maybe I missed it. But regardless, we don't have damage shields on the werewolf, so what's the freaking point? It's useless. So this one here, which increases your recovery, alongside this, which increases your status damage, alongside this really vague one that gives you weapon and spell damage. Overall, it's not terrible. You are going to benefit a lot from a werewolf from having the status increase, especially if you're going in the Infinite Archive, but it's not completely game-changing versus stuff like the Sorcerer or the Templar. So let's have a quick rundown. DK. Subjective to build, useless otherwise, apart from a resistance bonus and a block mitigation bonus. So very good for tanky stuff if you're being a werewolf tank, but outside of that, no damage bonuses. Templar, really good balance of survival as far as your resistances and damage is concerned, with the weapon and spell damage increase and the resistances, and of course, the Burning Light passive, which can basically do free damage. So that one is a really good balance of the two. Tankiness and damage combined, I would rate that higher than the DK. So this one currently is up there. Sorcerer, this is a very tricky one. Oh, also you've got reduction to cost. 5% reduction across the board. Sorcerer is a tricky one because you've got the reduction to cost for the ulti, which is 15%. If you block, then you've got 15% recovery for all other types of skills, which are health, magicka, or stam cost. You've got a pet bonus, which is really, really helpful. So you can actually benefit from having a pet or not having a pet. So if you have them, 10% extra health. Don't have them, 10% extra resources. So either morph can benefit you. And then you've got the extra damage up front, and then the continuing extra damage that goes down and down and down through the fight, down to 1% overall. And you've got the physical damage. So Sorcerer is up there with the flat damage type it does, the reduction to cost to get to Werewolf, and a reduction to cost if you get into trouble and start blocking and stuff. So it's really, really helpful, especially if you choose to pet or not pet. And there are ways to utilize that, but we're not going to go on sets. So at the moment, it's between a Templar and a Sorcerer. This one for full-out damage. This one for a mixture of damage and utility. Nightblade, extremely subjective. With the crit chance bonus giving you minus savagery, you have to build for crit in order to really take advantage of it. And of course, the pen bonus, you could have too much pen in your group already, or you might not. And if you don't, then it's going to be a small bonus. The potion passive is useless because you're already a werewolf and you can't generate it. So the Nightblade is good if you build for crit. But seeing as that is very subjective, I'd still put the Templar and the Sorcerer higher. Warden, absolute trash. Not even going to lie about it. Nothing is fucking useful. Necromancer, damage over time is nice. Health is nice. It's a good middle grounder if you're going to go DPS that wants to have some survival. And Arcanist, good status damage, good recovery. So just for status and recovery, Arcanist. Scared DPS, Necromancer. Tanky, DK. Warden, don't even fucking bother. Nightblade, subjective, you need crit stuff, and Templar and Sorcerer are literally up there neck and neck. To be fair, I would say the Sorcerer offers more utility at the same time as damage and choice, whereas the Templar is just flat out damage with a bit of survival. Say what you like, decide to tell me what you think in the comment section below, but I honestly think the Templar or the Sorcerer is the choice for Werewolf. Out of the two, if you're going to go with recovery and damage, these two are way up there. Sorcerer, I would argue, could do a little bit more damage overall, depending on your Burning Light passive. So I'm gonna loosely say that Sorcerer is number 1, with Templar number 2. But I think if you sneezed in the wrong direction, that could flip. So let me know what you think, people. It is a very tough thing to decide as to which one. Why is my advert playing? Very tough decision to decide which one is really that beneficial, because obviously building is subjective. There are 68 unvigintillion possibilities down to gear choices when it comes to swapping slots. If you went for useful builds, there are actually, if you cut down all the crap ones, there's at least 200 billion possibilities for what you could do that are going to function correctly rather than just being random slots. We could be here all bloody day with the subjective, your build does this, so it's better for the werewolf. But class, right off the bat, just on passives, Sorcerer is king, Templar is extremely close. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, obviously hit the thumbs up and press the sub and notification button so you know when the other videos go live. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.